Hi, I'm taking time to sit down and make a video because I think we all need tools that help us with the emotional stuff coming up. So if you're like me and a lot of people who I'm spending time with this week in classes and in appointments and just people I know, you're really struggling with how to process, the horror of family separation at the border, knowing what kids are going through and not being able to help them. A lot of us are heartbroken, a lot of us are angry, a lot of us are shocked, a lot of us feel betrayed. And those emotions are important, and they're doing one of three things within us. One thing those emotions do is they trigger a shutdown. They encourage us to avoid, turn away. Sometimes it's, distract ourselves with TV or a drink or being busy or refusing to watch the news or to read about things. And that whole category of ways to relate to what's going on is, suppression, repression, right? The opposite direction that's happening to people is falling in. We can't tear ourselves away from the horrible images. We keep watching the same thing or listening to the same thing again and again. We keep talking about it. We're stuck. We're falling. What I keep hearing from people is falling down the rabbit hole, getting stuck in that dark tunnel. That renders people kind of helpless. It can make us angry and sad, but we just get stuck in the emotion, right? So there's avoidance or repression, there's falling in, and the middle path, the one I'm teaching every day and practicing with myself every day, is to feel the feelings and not fall in. It's not easy to do if you haven't learned, but there are some really simple practices that can help. So if you are like a lot of people and you're getting caught up in emotions or you're avoiding emotions, I want to offer a few tools. First of all, I should say this might be happening, with what's going on with the news, as I'm saying, but it also might be happening with stuff going on in your own life. Something your kids are doing, something your partner is doing, something your boss is doing, maybe triggering some of these same feelings. The feelings of what's happening to these children also may be triggering your own old pain. Stuff that happened to you as a kid, stuff you've seen happen to kids, stuff you've done as a parent and regret. It may be much less intense, but nonetheless triggered by what's going on. Okay, so these are useful in times like right now politically, and they're also useful in our personal lives in many, many ways. Okay, my favorite, and all those of you who already know me know this, my favorite practice is so simple, and it's taught by a teacher I just have so much love and respect for, Thich Nhat Hanh. And what he teaches about is to treat our emotions with the gentleness that we would treat a baby. And he says, if you see a baby crying, what do you do? And, we pick it up, right? And he says, what if it's, it's difficult to listen to? Would you just cover its mouth? And, no. Like we would cover its mouth. Well, what if you did cover its mouth? Would you expect this baby to stop crying? Like when you take your hand off the mouth. Of course not, right? If we cover a baby's mouth, it's not calm afterward. And then he asks, do you ever have emotions and treat them like you want to cover their mouth? Or do you pick them up and hold them? Do you hold your emotions tenderly? And for me, that's a wake-up call, because it's hard to hold my emotions tenderly. It has been something I've worked with and learned and find incredibly useful. So in this practice, what you're feeling you transform how you relate to it. So, for example, notice right now if you've got kind of unresolved feelings, and see if you can give them a name. Maybe you felt angry or scared, sad. Take a moment and notice in your body what it's like to feel what you feel in response to the news or something else going on. Label it, anger, worry, whatever it is. And then imagine for a moment that that emotion itself is something you can pick up and hold like a baby. I really recommend actually putting your hands on your chest like you would if you're holding a baby to you, because this it gives some stimulation to the vagus nerve, which stimulates that parasympathetic nervous system. It helps us to calm. It helps us to feel supported. So if you can imagine this emotion as something you hold, it's like a baby. Imagine taking this thing going on in you right now. And imagine you're holding it, and even internally kind of talk to it, in whatever voice is authentic for you. Something tender, though, like you would speak to a small person who was suffering, who's scared or angry, sad. It's okay, sweetie, I'm here for you. Imagine greeting your own little scared self or angry self with this. I love you, I'm here. Take a few moments with this practice to turn inward, to feel the emotion, and to imagine holding the emotion itself with love. It's okay, sweetie. I love you. I'm here. Yes, yes. We're just gonna be there with it, tender, accepting, allowing these emotions to have their space to be felt. Right? And you can just stay like that for a bit. Sometimes it just takes a couple minutes. Sometimes it's good to spend 15-20 minutes really doing it. Sometimes you may find yourself crying or shaking. Sometimes you may find those feelings almost disappear, and they're hard to sense. And all that is fine. The practice is just to stay with it and continue to offer yourself loving acceptance for a bit. And when you do that, instead of relating to the emotion in a way that's running away from it or falling in, you relate to it in a way that holds it and allows it to go through a process, which I think of a lot like composting. You are allowing these emotions to compost in you. And so they turn from like rotting vegetables into beautiful, rich soil. But like compost, it takes some time and it's kind of messy. So you stay with it and you allow it. And another way to think of it is that you're transmuting. You're allowing these emotions to be transmuted by your process of holding them. And after a little while, you just check in, see how you feel. Sometimes the emotion will have intensified and then eased a little bit. And that leaves you in a bit of a different place. Okay. So, one reason I want to share this practice at this moment in time is because if we are not holding our emotions and working with them, if we're either avoiding or falling in, we are less able to be effective. We're adding to the emotional drama rather than transmuting or healing. And if we're doing that, we're adding to the problem instead of helping resolve the problem. And honestly, we can't. There's no space for that right now. It is vital that all of those of us who can show up and feel our feelings and take care of them and help other people to do that when possible, when they're open to it. And by doing that, we make some changes. We make some changes in the emotional energy of the immediate world we're in and the big world we're in. Another simple practice you can do is just use your breath. Breathing in, I feel this, and just name it. Anger, fear. Breathing out, I allow it for now. And you can just keep using your breath, breathing in. I feel this, and it might not even have a name like fear. Maybe you're just like, I feel this tightness in my chest. I feel this desire to run. I feel this, horror, sadness, heartbreak. Breathing out, I let it be here now, just for now. Okay, you can just use your breath to do that. Each of these practices does something. It changes how you relate to the feeling so that instead of being taken over by it, you become this loving space around it. Even if you're loving fear, you're shifting yourself from being inside of fear to being a loving container for fear. That's a big, big shift. And it's a very helpful one in helping us to be able to live sustainable lives, to not get lost in this. Of course, we also need to take action. And for all of us, this is deep service to work with transmuting emotions. And if you have particular skills in this, if you have, the ability to be a translator, or which organizations are looking for translators who speak some of the native languages the immigrants speak. Hopefully, if you speak those languages, you've already found a way to help. And if not, message me and I will link you up. Maybe you have legal background, you're a lawyer or someone who can work in that. A lot of us we don't have any of the skills that are needed on the ground. If you don't have the skills that are needed, scrape together what you can to donate. There are wonderful organizations that are doing work that is desperately needed. 3 that I am donating to and support. The first is RAICES, RAICES. They've been doing work for a long time with refugee and immigrant populations, and they're doing really important work in this. Another one, Together Rising, has all kinds of different active support happening in many ways, but right now they are putting a lot of money towards supporting refugees being reunited with their families. A third is maybe not as well publicized. Hand in Hand Parenting is raising funds to train people to help kids and families work with trauma. And they're wanting to train people so that there are resources available to these children and parents so that they can resolve that trauma that they're undergoing right now. Because we all know kids and adults and trauma, it gets stuck in our systems. But with skillful practices like the ones I'm showing you, kids and parents can release some of that trauma. So Hand in Hand Parenting is another wonderful place to consider donating. Okay, instead of being immobilized by our emotions or acting them out or escalating everybody around us in emotional reactivity or avoiding them, let's do really deep, brave work and hold them and allow them and transmute them. Thanks for watching, and please do what you can to serve wherever emotional work is needed.